As a kid, I wanted to be a doctor for a really long time. From 8 years old, that was the only path that I knew was become a doctor. I had this idea in my head that I was going to be a doctor, and that was it. And the reason was that was the only thing that I knew. I did thousands of hours of volunteering and shadowing and took the test to become a doctor. I took that thing 17 times, and it's a 7.5 hour test. I had been accepted into a school to go study medicine, and I was a couple weeks from graduating, and I came across a book, Think and Grow Rich, paired that with another book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and started understanding that there's so much more out there than this little pigeonholed mindset that I had, and started to reevaluate everything and evaluated what I wanted to do, and ultimately came to the decision that I don't want to continue down this path. If I'm not willing to do something for the next 10 years, then I'm not going to do it for 10 minutes. I was studying, and I came across a platform called Mindvalley, and Mindvalley really opened my eyes to all sorts of different things. I started to learn things that were applicable to getting me to that next phase of life. Change the mindset and change the way that you define and look at those challenges. That's really where your success is going to come. It's never too late to redefine your life. Success is about growth. With consistency, you can't lose. Enjoy that process and just never give up.
Have you ever felt trapped in a path that no longer belongs to you? Or wondered if it's too late to redefine success on your own terms? Well, in terms of my personal experience with this, I remember when I decided to start a career in the television industry, and I was making a change compared to what I thought was my dream job when I was a teenager. And gradually, growing up, I realized that I gradually lost interest in being a camera operator very naturally. Nobody convinced me. I simply changed. I simply realized that I was no longer interested. And it was a bit of a shock because I had this conviction that my life was mapped out. It was everything was never going to change. I would just, do my camera operator career and that would be it. And suddenly I realized this is not really what makes me feel fulfilled. And then I went back to study. I went back to uni again. And then I realized after a workshop with a career consultant specialized in film and television, I realized that something much more in line with my personality was working in casting research, as a casting researcher first, and then casting assistant producer in broadcasting television. So at the beginning, it was scary to change something that I had always thought would be in my life. But then going through that taught me, guess what? Self-compassion. There isn't a time in life a time to pursue what you want. There isn't a pre-established time. That really taught me self-compassion. Another self-compassion lesson for Val. But enough with talking about me now, and let's get into today's episode. In this episode of the Zero Defeat podcast, I sit down with Ben Allgeyer, a visionary entrepreneur who walked away from a life mapped out for him as a doctor to carve his own path in business and personal growth. Ben's journey is about more than career pivots. It's about resilience, mindset transformation, and daring to create a life aligned with your values and passions. Ben shares the lessons and strategies that helped him redefine success while empowering himself and others to grow and thrive along the way. This episode is basically packed with insights on mindset shifts, overcoming fear, and finding clarity. So, how do we take control of our story, push past fears, and turn challenges into stepping stones for growth? Let's dive into this episode with Ben to find out more. And of course, do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, engage. This will help you always be up to date with the episodes, and it will help the Zero Defeat podcast get better and better and better. And of course, always remember to be kind and respectful in your comments. We cover delicate subjects on this show, so Any unkind and disrespectful comment may be triggering for some people. And of course, always remember that we do not offer mental health advice on this show. Always consult a professional for that. The Zero Defeat podcast is a space to offer content that can be compelling and inspiring to highlight the power of taking care of our mental well-being. And if at any point during the episode you feel triggered or uncomfortable, by all means, feel free to stop watching. But now let's get into today's episode with Ben. Okay, let's start from your youth, where you started from to the point where you started getting more clarity about what your life was really going to be about.
So when I first started, like as a kid, I wanted to be a doctor for a really long time. Like from 8 years old, that was the only path that I knew was become a doctor. And I followed this path, did all the courses that I had to, took extra classes, took college courses while I was in high school, went to university while I was still in high school on the evenings. After I was done with my schoolwork, I went to university, and the local university, and did a bunch of stuff there. So I had this idea in my head that I was going to be a doctor, and that was it. And the reason was I didn't know. Like I thought that was my only way to make a giant impact in this world was to be a doctor. And yeah, it had great money that came with it. But that was the only thing that I knew. And then when I got to college and started going through that whole process, I did thousands of hours of volunteering and shadowing and the whole 9 yards. Took the test to become a doctor. I took that thing 17 times, and it's a 7.5 hour test. It was a lot. And I was solely focused on this one dream, this one vision. And I was all in. Until I got to this point where I was a couple weeks from graduating university. I had been accepted into a school to go study medicine, and I was a couple weeks from graduating. And I came across a book, Think and Grow Rich, paired that with another book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and started understanding that there's so much more out there than this little pigeonholed mindset that I had, and started to reevaluate everything. So diving deep into these books, I was like, okay, there's got to be something more. And why was I still on this path towards medicine? It was my 8-year-old self had said, you're going to be a doctor. So I had a real conversation with that 8-year-old version of me, and just realized that it wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't this path was, it hadn't been evaluated since I was 8 years old. So I took that step back and started to see if there was anything else out there, and realized that there's a lot out there, that I didn't need to go spend the next 15 years of my life after I'd already spent since I was 8 years old, tracking down this goal and this dream. I took some time and evaluated what I wanted to do, and ultimately came to the decision that I don't want to continue down this path. I can make such a greater impact in the next 15 years than just becoming a doctor and seeing 1 million patients a day. And essentially, to all the doctors out there, I'm sorry, but essentially I didn't want to be a pill pusher. And I figured that's exactly what I would be, was just somebody who pushed pills. Because the way that medicine works in the United States is you really don't have time to build connections with your patients. And that's ultimately what I wanted to do, was build connections with people and make an impact greater than just a 30-minute appointment to try to fix their problems in 30 minutes. That's just, it just wasn't something that I saw being my life at that point. I continue to grow that mindset and continue to expand not only my skills, but the things that I'm able to do, and the things that I'm able to accomplish. And the more that you accomplish, and the more that you kind of grow in the mental side of things, the more opportunities come to you. I've had a multitude of opportunities that continue to come across my desk, and it's all because I continue to grow and continue to expand and continue to seek out new opportunities and constantly reevaluating the mindset there, right? Like I'm not pigeonholed anymore. And the things that I press on towards, I'm constantly evaluating, hey, is this the right path to go down? Is this what I want to continue to do? And I've kind of come across a framework that I've built. If I'm not willing to do something for the next 10 years, then I'm not going to do it for 10 minutes.
So tell me about your internal journey. How did you start? How did you embark on a journey of changing your mindset?
For sure. Yeah. And that's a great question. And how I'm going to start is basically go back to what that kind of looked like after I decided I was changing that path, right? So decided not to go pursue medicine any longer and really had to go get a job because I needed to pay the bills. So I got a job as a corporate salesperson, moved out of my hometown, moved down to Scottsdale, Arizona. And a couple points. Number one, I got this job and I was the youngest salesperson in the history of the company at 21 years old, selling to doctors' offices and going all around talking to physicians as a 21-year-old. It was super intimidating. But when I started to do that, I really took that job just because I needed a job. So I went down there, started working for corporate for a little bit, and realized that, yeah, this is great. I can make a bunch of money doing this, but this is really not what I want to do with the rest of my life. So I would do that corporate job from 9 to 5. And then as soon as I was done, as soon as my day was over, which I would make it go a lot faster because I would just burn between these offices. As soon as that was over, I would go grab Chipotle and then head on over to this coffee shop. And I would sit at this coffee shop from 5, 6 p.m. until they closed at midnight. And I would sit there and learn as much as I possibly could. I was just trying to develop a skill. It's just go develop a skill, like get really good at a skill. And mine was sales. I was really good at sales. So I just kept developing that while I was looking for something that would kind of fit that mold of sales plus being able to contribute to as many lives as I possibly could. So initially, when I started going through this, I was reading books, I was listening to YouTube videos, I was studying, and I came across a platform called Mindvalley. And Mindvalley really opened my eyes to all sorts of different things because I had gone through school. I'd gone through all the basic university stuff, learning science and learning writing and learning reading, like all of these things, right? Just the normal things that they teach you in university. And it doesn't apply most of the time to the real world. I started to learn things that were applicable to getting me to that next phase of life. And a couple of the programs that I ran through initially, one was speed reading. I knew that if I could obtain information faster, I would be on a route to get to where I wanted to be quicker. I just had to get that information faster. So I took a speed reading course and it changed everything. I could read books incredibly fast. I could retain information because there's actually a principle that the faster you read, the more information you retain because you're solely focused on that. You have to put all of your attention into it when you read something faster. So I was able to get just gobs of information so much faster. And then another course that I took through that was Lifebook. And that really outlined for me, it kind of set the foundation of the values, the principles that I wanted to instill in my life and that I wanted to hold to. So it goes through health, wealth, relationships, all kinds of different aspects of your life. And I really built the foundation of the next phase of my life through that. It was key to help me get to where I'm at as an entrepreneur now, building those foundations.
How did you feel during that process of making this radical decision to really change your career path, not just the career path, but your life path?
So the first thing, I mean, it's scary, right? Like it would have been super easy for me to just fit into this role, work a 9 to 5, play golf on the weekends and just call it good and say that, I'm going to be a corporate person the rest of my life. And it was tough. The first tough part was explaining to my parents that I wasn't going to go to medical school anymore. That was frightening. And that was one of the hardest parts that I had to get past was having that conversation since they supported me through that entire phase of my life. So once I did that, the rest of it wasn't as difficult, because that was the hardest conversation I ever had to have. So I overcame that fear. And then when I got into the corporate world and knowing that wasn't something that I wanted to do, I had to push past that initial trepidation of, okay, well, if you're going to go start something else, it's going to be hard. It's going to cost money, and it's going to be something that you're going to have to put a ton of time into learning a brand new field. So Mindvalley was that catalyst for me. It was the catalyst that kind of got me to understanding that there is way more out there, and opening all those doors of opportunity just by learning as much as I possibly could and seeing all those things that were out there. So what I did was I just tried a bunch of things. After I had built that foundation of the Lifebook, I just tried a bunch of things. I tried drop shipping. I tried online sales of some sort. Like I tried all kinds of different things, and finally landed on the real estate side of things, which any of those things that I tried probably could have worked. I just didn't understand that you have to push past those initial barriers. There's a million things online. Most of those things are just garbage. They're not real. It's not something that's sustainable. And like I said before, if you're not willing to do something for 10 years, don't do it for 10 minutes. You're not going to make $1 million doing something. Most people just aren't going to make $1 million doing something for a couple months, like a lot of these courses and a lot of these gurus out there tell you. It's just not realistic. So whatever you do choose to do, whatever you decide to do, you're going to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall. You're going to throw a million passes before you finally land on one that you want to go with. But any of them can work if you spend enough time doing them. If you have the wherewithal to be able to say to myself, I'm not going to quit. Like if you continue to do something and you just tell yourself, I'm not going to quit, you have to have that fortitude to push through those barriers and acknowledge that, yeah, this is going to be difficult. Whatever I decide to do is going to be difficult. If I want to get to where I have things that other people don't have, I have to be willing to do those things that other people aren't willing to do.
So tell me what happened. How did you go through the process of learning that brand new trade, learning everything about the brand new path that you were starting, and, well, the hardships, really?
I kind of got to go back a little bit and talk about why, like when I finally decided that I was leaving that sales job. So when I was working for that company, I was the top salesman in the region because of one simple principle. I would sell. So we sold these laboratory tests. So there was a litany of tests, like when you get your blood drawn, we sold all these tests that they run on your blood, right? And my company and another company were the two big companies in the space. And what my company would do is go and buy these little boutique labs that were the best in the world at their specific test. So the tests that they would run on your blood, they were the best in the world at it. And the other company would also buy these boutique labs that were the best in the world at these other tests. But everything else was the exact same. It was a commoditized business with all of the other standard panels that you get run on your blood. So my job was to sell as much as I possibly could of all of these tests. And the bulk majority of the profit came by the commoditized tests, the panels that they run on everybody. So I would go and tell the doctors, hey, listen, all of these tests in the middle, all these normal tests, they're the same between my company and the competitor. But we're the best in the world at these specific tests because we purchased a boutique lab that's the best in the world. So I would get all of the testing in the middle. I would get all of the specialized testing that we did. And then they would send their other stuff that the other company was good at to them. And that was fine. I was cleaning house with all of these doctors' offices, and I went to my boss and was showing her all the numbers. She goes, well, we need to get these tests. And I said, well, we're not the best in the world at those tests. They trust me because I tell them exactly what we're good at and exactly what we're not good at. And she said, I don't care. We need all of these tests. So that was kind of the point where I realized that this really wasn't for me. I wasn't going to sell something that I didn't believe that we were the best at. It would go against everything that I had, all the trust that I had built with these physicians. It would go against everything. So at that point, I knew that it was time to really dive into something. So I dove into that world and started studying a lot about real estate. But one of the important pieces, I think, for a lot of people is there's this temptation to just quit what you're doing and try to go all in and burn the boats. That may work for some people, but in my experience, it wasn't the right fit for me. I had to maintain my 9-to-5 while I went and studied and learned and got proficient in this other field. So that's what I did. I kept the 9-to-5 as long as I could so that I had that paycheck that I could use to then funnel money towards what I was interested in and what I wanted to do, which was real estate. So I dove into real estate and paid a lot of money in what I call stupid tax, learning the business, which is just part of it. Things always cost more than you think that they're going to cost, and they always take longer than you think that they're going to take. So when I dove into that real estate world, I had a bunch of coaches. I surrounded myself with mentors. I went to all these meetups and events and just learned and had as many conversations about real estate that I wanted. And whether it's real estate, whatever you want to get into, whatever you're passionate about and want to move towards, upping the number of conversations about that modality is key. You have to surround yourself with people, conversations, and resources that are about that specific thing. So that's what I did. And so I embraced real estate. And in the beginning, it would have been super easy for me to quit. I came against roadblock after roadblock, coaching programs that just were terrible. They didn't teach me anything. I spent all the time, all the effort into these programs doing what these people said, and it just didn't produce results. And then I had a deal. I found a really good coach, and she coached me into exactly what I needed to do to get my first deal. And I did it. Spent hours and hours and hours driving around looking at properties, and I had a deal that was going to be my first one, and there was a $50,000 profit on this deal. I had messed up, and I didn't take photos of the house. And the seller knew that when I told him I needed to come back and take photos, he's like, okay, you're a rookie. You don't know what you're doing. I'm going to sell this to somebody else. So he did. I lost out on a $50,000 check. And it would have been really easy at that point to just say, you know what? I've spent so much time, so much effort, so much energy, and I just freaking lost. And I lost huge. But that's not what I did. I doubled down on my efforts. I doubled down on my learning and studying, and got to a point where I knew that one mistake, I was never going to make that mistake again. So I didn't.
So now you are on the path that you chose. Just because you are on the right path for you, that obviously doesn't eliminate obstacles, as we know. Why don't you describe now all the difficulties of starting the business? Because your mind grew with your business, literally, as it happens. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So after I lost that deal, after I lost that freaking check that was supposed to be kind of the launching point for my career, I had to find a different way to make it in this business. So I found a guy who had been really successful back in my hometown and went to work for him and started building out his acquisitions team, started helping him build his real estate empire. It was okay, but it was again, it felt like corporate. And I knew that I kind of wanted to do this on my own. I didn't want to work for somebody else, but it was a time period of learning and continuing to grow through the books, the podcasts, everything that I was continuing to learn. I wasn't ready to own a business at that point. It felt like I was in a holding pattern, but I knew that I had to continue to grow and learn until I was ready to venture out on my own. So when I was working for this company, finally got to a point where things kind of weren't aligning. The values of the company weren't aligning with my values, and I knew that it was time for me to leave. But the problem was I had signed a non-compete. So I had a year where I had to basically sit out and do nothing. And to a 22, 23-year-old, a year felt like an eternity. So I was very again, the fear came right back of how am I going to survive? How am I going to make this work? So I negotiated on my way out the door. I negotiated like $6,000 as my leaving pay. So I said, all right, I'll sign this non-compete if I can have $6,000. So I took that $6,000 and I said, all right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go backpack Europe by myself for the next however many months. Cause I had 12 months where I had to wait out and do all kinds of different things. I visited 22 countries. I figured out how to do that for $5,600. So through that backpacking journey, I met so many cool people. And it's not something that people in the States do. Like when we go on vacation, most of the people in the United States will go to other places in the United States or Mexico. Like when I told people that I was going to backpack Europe for 4 months, they go, you're out of your freaking mind. You're going to, one, get taken by somebody. And I'm like, okay, well, that's probably not going to happen. They're like, or two, you're going to get lost and have no idea where you're at. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So I went and just did it. I booked a flight, got on a flight, went to Greece and worked my way all the way up through the Baltics, over to London, down into Italy, and then finally came home. And that experience taught me so much. One, it taught me how to be with myself. And that's tough for a lot of people. Like we have so much coming at us all the time, from constantly being entertained and all these companies wanting to buy our attention, that just learning to sit and be by myself and be able to have a litany of decisions that I could make and learning how to make those decisions and make them quickly. That was one of the biggest things that I learned from my time over there. And then when I came back, I had to figure out how to make money. So I'm done with the backpacking journey. I'm completely content being by myself. I learned a ton of how to interact with people, how to build relationships. So when I came back, I had to get a job and I couldn't do anything in real estate. So I say, well, I'm going to have to know construction. Like I have to know that to be able to evaluate properties. So I went and started working manual labor for $20 an hour. And after about 6 months of this, I felt like I was the biggest failure in the world. I was a kid who was destined to go to medical school, got into medical school, quit that. And now I'm coming home just covered in all kinds of crap from these nasty houses that I was working on. And I felt like a complete and utter failure. I thought that I didn't know what I was going to do, but every day I would come home and just feel like a failure. And I had to force myself to continue to learn and continue to switch up that mindset and say, hey, this is just a learning process. This is going to be part of your story. This is going to be part of your origin story that got you to where you're going to be in the next 10, 15 years of your life. So I finally struggled through that, got through it. And those last couple months of the non-compete, I started to build my business. And I built and built and built and built. I was working 12 hours a day on houses, and then I would come home and work 4 or 5 hours a night on this business that I was going to have ready by the time that my non-compete was over. I was going to be ready to go. I was going to be balls to the walls, hitting it hard as soon as I was done with this non-compete. And that's exactly what I did.
Now we move on to the next challenge, which is the first 2 years of your business. Mm-hmm. Tell me how that went.
Oh, it went horribly. So when I started the business, I was like, okay, this is going to be great. I'm going to make a bunch of money in real estate. I'm going to do all kinds of great things and just quickly become this uber successful person. That is not how it went at all. It was painfully difficult. So I had a business partner. He's still my business partner. He's actually sitting in the room behind us. But I had a business partner, and we struggled a lot. We started the business, and it just was so much more difficult than either one of us thought. We went months and months and months scraping together just little bits of money. I think for the first year, our average month was like $3,500, and we had to split that between the two of us. And it was just constant struggle after struggle after struggle. I was living in an apartment that was about the only thing that I could afford. It was $400 a month. There were cockroaches everywhere. It was absolutely filthy. My roommate was, he had this apartment that just was super old, and I was living like dirt. So it was super difficult for me to continue to maintain that mindset of growth and continue to keep on the path of learning, just because I was getting kicked in the balls every second of the day. It just felt like every day when I would come home, I was completely wiped, and there was just no light at the end of the tunnel. So I kind of got away from the self-help stuff and the professional development for a while, and then realized one day I got to get back on this. This is what got me here, and this is what's going to get me to the next phase, and this is what's going to get me through everything. So again, got right back into studying, got right back into podcasts and books and Mindvalley, and continued to grow the mindset to be more of an abundance mindset. I had this lack mindset from just not making any money, and had to bring it back into abundance, and I did. And we grew that business and kept growing, kept fighting, and we just didn't quit. If you just don't quit, you're going to be successful. So there were many opportunities for us to just throw in the towel, and we didn't do that. We kept fighting, we kept growing, we kept iterating, we kept innovating, and finally got to a point where our business started to make a massive turn, and basically built that foundation for what our business is today.
In our world, many people, including myself, I mean, in the past, not now, we still have the tendency to see success in a very stereotyped way. There is still a lack of clarity about what success really is. What have you learned and understood about success based also on what you do today, how you live today?
Yeah. Success is the little wins along the way. Success is your ability to get through each one of those challenges and come out on the other side better than you were before. The journey really is the whole idea of success, right? It's constant growth. Each step is a step forward towards the next phase. But if you're waiting for that moment where you're like, okay, I'm successful, the moment isn't what feels good. The journey is really where it's at. The path towards it is where it's really at. Being able to have this massive challenge that comes up and going, okay, I just beat that. I just figured out how to get through that, how to get past that challenge. That's really where success lies. It's not in this, okay, if I have X number of dollars, or if I own X number of houses, or if I do X number of things, if I know this many people and can look back on myself as this success. Like, that's not real. It's the path. And too many people are focused on the end goal. And then you just lose the joy in the daily activities. You lose the joy in the build up to whatever that pinnacle moment is, right? And I've just learned throughout all of these years of growing multiple businesses now that you have to enjoy each part of that pathway towards your big goal. And that's what success means for me. It's continuing to find the beauty in every little setback, every little challenge, and my being able to overcome those challenges. So there really does need to be a redefinition of success for the society and the world that we live in, and just working your way through each one of those challenges. If you can change the mindset and change the way that you define and look at those challenges, that's really where your success is going to come.
So would you say that true defeat only exists if we refuse to grow? For sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's no such thing as defeat. If I'm looking at it, I don't see defeat. I just see it as, okay, well, you may have lost this battle, but you ain't gonna lose the war. And that's how I approach most of the things is I may lose a battle from time to time, but I'm not losing that war. I've got it in my head that regardless of what comes up, I'm gonna be able to figure out how to get past it. And the cool thing is, once you're able to overcome some of these small things, some of these small challenges that may seem big, you're gonna look back on them and go, God, that was so small. that it just opened the door. Once you learn how to overcome these small things for bigger and bigger problems, guess what happens with bigger and bigger problems? Bigger and bigger opportunities.
So tell me about your businesses, the environment that you created, because you wouldn't have created it if you hadn't experienced what you experienced, if you hadn't gone through the journey you went through.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, we own a real estate operation that buys houses, flips houses. We build houses as well. And then we actually just purchased a painting company. We own a security company, and then we're closing on a security company as well this month. So we're going to have 5 businesses now. Having gone through everything that I went through and getting to where I'm at, training and support and the ability to provide people with the opportunity to continue to grow is essential in any business. We give our people the opportunity to go through the Mindvalley courses. They have all the resources they need to continue to grow and continue to move down that path to get to whatever end destination they want to get to as well. And we really emphasize enjoying the journey. Our people love working here because of all of the support and the team unit that we've built, the culture that we've built all around this idea of growth. And just for example, in our real estate operation, we give everybody who's a part of the operation, we teach them financial literacy, like how to manage your finances, how to build your finances like you're running a business. And then we give them the opportunity to purchase property, and we help them through that process of, you want to buy a rental property to give yourself and your family a legacy, then yeah, we're going to help you through that process. So we look at it very different than like the corporate world that I came from, where everything was super political, and it was just a cutthroat environment. And we really built these companies on the supportive environment and building teams. We don't have employees, we have teams, and we're really trying to change that mindset for the people that we bring in, because we want to see them, if they decide to leave, anybody decides to leave, we hope they go and do amazing things. And it's different than a lot of the businesses that we see, where it's, if you leave, you're dead to us, and we don't want that. We want to build our people up to where they do feel empowered to go and do whatever they want to do.
Amazing. I mean, it is the dream corporate culture, isn't it?
We try to make it that way.
So now, as we do with every episode, if you had one final takeaway for everybody to remember after everything you've said, what would that be? Yeah,
it's a great question. It is a loaded question, and I'm going to answer it in a couple parts. So the first thing I want to say is 100 years from now, no one's going to remember 99% of the things that you did. No one's going to care. We're all going to be dust at that point, and the people who are still living are living whatever life that they're still living. They're not worried about you. So do whatever you want to do. That, like, don't be afraid to go and go after those dreams that you have. It's never too late to redefine your life. Success is about growth. The only person that is making you miserable is you. You have the ability, you have the opportunity to change that. And then if you're going to dive into something, like I said, if you're not willing to do it for 10 years, don't do it for 10 minutes, but you got to give it everything you've got. And there is no shortcut. You're not going to get out of doing the work. It takes a long time, but with consistency, you can't lose. Enjoy that process and just never give up. Something that I heard a long time ago that has stuck with me is a quote. I don't even know who to attribute it to, but they basically said, along the road to success, along that road to where you want to get to, there's going to be the carcasses of the people that didn't have what it takes to get there. So you just have to push past and keep walking that path, and knowing that, like I said, if you don't quit, there's no chance of not being successful.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ben, for being with us.
Thanks, Val, for having me.
Okay, guys, this was our episode with Ben Allgeyer. I hope you felt inspired by it. You can find Ben's links in the episode description down below. And of course, do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, engage, follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well. And I have finished for today, and I wish you an amazing, amazing rest of your day, guys. And remember that our problems do not define us.